Of
course.
Hello and welcome to Nerdbone. I'm Ben. You already know that, but what you might not know, and shame on you for doing so, is you might not know Joe, also known as Super Joe. What's up, buddy?
I am doing great. How are you doing today?
With the music cue pulled
up. Right?
Oh.
Well, you got to have your own theme music. I'm like Peter Griffin. I can walk around with my own theme music.
Nice. So this is why you're a legend. This is what took you from Joe to Super Joe. All right, so
I appreciate that.
Look, for those of you who do not know Joe, I will go so far as to say you are an East Coast podcast legend, and maybe, because I don't know your numbers and I don't want to assume, maybe not everybody has listened to your podcast. However, you have had your fingers in so many others, just helping people out and raising up the community and supporting people, that they're listening to something of yours and they don't even know it. You know,
inspiration. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how more and more people are coming out of the woodwork to tell me that. Even people that like have way bigger shows than I may ever have
right.
Are like, Joe, like you inspired me so much. I love seeing you in my feed, and like I don't want to name drop, but somebody was gushing about me who like just got a pretty good deal. I mean, it wasn't Joe Rogan, but they got a pretty good deal for their show. Like they just did, and like I never really interact with that person very often, but yeah, apparently they see all my stuff, and even though they're not liking it, they were very like gushing about me, and I you know, I very much appreciate it. I try really hard to do my best to be the best person that I can be, and you know, when it comes to being super, I want to pull the super out of each and every person that I meet, and the people that are, you know, good to me, I want to be good back to them. And so, you know, the super isn't just me being awesome, like, look at me, I'm so awesome, because I'm not. Like, I'm very much out of shape. I haven't run in so long, you know, so it's like, you know, but it just, I very much love bringing the super out of people, and challenging people to be the best versions of themselves. And that's where it comes from.
Yeah, man. And like, especially with this medium of podcasting, where it's almost like, you know, a lot of people say quality is key for a whole lot of things. Like, of course, quality is key for, you know, being a surgeon, and quality is key for, you know, manufacturing a certain product, right? Well, when your manufacturing process involves your brain and your voice and the transmission of such, then yeah, you want to bring out the best that you possibly can, because, you know, if you want to get heard anyway. Unless you have millions of dollars to throw at advertising, and then, you know, we'll see what happens.
But even then,
right?
You could still do it wrong, right? But like that's the part of the education process with people is like, if you get the branding wrong, if you have tons and tons of money behind it, you can educate people to that point where they get it. Like calling a taxi service Uber, like that's not why. Like, what does that have to do with getting taxied anywhere? It doesn't. So it's one of those things where like it enables you, because you have the money to burn, and you got to burn it. You have to send it somewhere, to be able to educate the populace. Sadly,
so speaking of, well, yeah, one of these days, we'll get there. One of these days, Spotify will call us, and that will be a good day.
I'm holding out, man. I'm hoping out. I want to cash in there without selling my soul. I want to cash in.
Yeah. That would be lovely. Although maybe a little bit of my soul, just a tiny little bit. I can see. Here's the thing: after years of podcasting, I can put enthusiasm on any advertisement I need to. You know, I was like, A&D ointment for your rear end. You know, I can do it. Yeah, that's what.
I think it's called rusty bumper ointment. Is what you bet.
yeah, exactly. And there was actually one I was just talking about it on a podcast. A fake advertisement for a brand of whiskey called Bob Dammit's Signature Whiskey, and the signature on the bottle is just an X. You know, so it's very goofy. Let's get on the topic that I was thinking about for tonight, because there are a couple of realms where you and I crisscross brain wise, right? Uh, one of those things is gaming. Another one of those things is live streaming. And I have been seeing a ton of traffic both on Twitch and on social media platforms, which I get, is Twitch a social media platform?
I
Is
would
it
say it
classified as
is.
that?
Yeah, I would say it is.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, if they don't, then I don't know what they would classify it as, but I would say it's social media because it's supposed to be about
Yeah,
community building, and it's yeah. I
right.
mean, and people use it for other things other than just streaming games. So I would say yeah, social media for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about too, because I've seen so many people start to switch to, like, they're doing the Facebook lives, they're doing the Instagram lives occasionally, if it works. But there almost seems to be, I don't want to say a flood to Twitch, but definitely a little bit of a boost of people just trying to get their stuff on more platforms, and at least attempting the live stream thing, because more people are sitting at home now watching stuff. So yeah, I
Well,
don't
you're
know if
quickly
you've seen
running out of
anything
things to
similar.
watch. As
Right.
Netflix gets dried up, and new TV shows are not like they don't even know. I don't even think they know what they're gonna do yet for the fall season. Um,
Right.
so it's yeah, doing the live streaming thing. I live stream podcasts. I have 3 shows that I live stream podcasts for. I've live streamed video games. I play PC Master Race, PCMR all the way.
Right.
And so between those two or those 4 things, um, it's a lot to live stream. But I enjoy it. I think it's fun. Getting the comments. I love being able to interact with people while I'm doing it. It's completely transformed my interview style and having guests on my show and all that because well, I wouldn't even say now because there's video like when Facebook Live first came on the scene, like I was all over doing oh, did I freeze? Oh, there we go.
A little bit, yeah. You're good
Yeah,
though.
so like my show was still an interview show, and I was recording those mostly on Skype. But I would do a pre-show, and the pre-show would be live streamed. So I would do this like
Yeah.
thing, and I would just like prop up my phone, and me and my boy Matt would do a pre-show. We talk for like up to an hour, and then I would just tack that pre-show on to the interview, and then that would be the podcast episode. So, I mean, now they're coming up in my feed like 4 years later or so, 4+ years later, and it's like, wow, those look like really terrible. They sound terrible because it wasn't, the audio coming out of the microphone. It was just the audio, from the camera or from the phone. So, but
Right.
it definitely helped. But the problem for me was I wasn't able to see the comments because it was like far away. So I got my whole body in the frame, and I'm having a conversation with Matt, so it just didn't work real well. And now, like, with things like StreamYard, I have the comments right off to the side here, or if I use OBS to stream video games, like I have the comments right there on my second screen. Like, it just makes life so much easier and so much more enjoyable to do it, to do live streaming. And then you
Yeah,
have,
for sure.
so many easier things to use, like cameras. Like I'm using a Canon M50 because they just released the software finally. So you get a clean output and it looks pretty darn good. So, things like that have just come along, and then you get like the Stream Deck, so I can like play my theme music whenever I'm talking to somebody, or I could like change my voice, and I could sing you a song right now.
Nice.
That kind of stuff, right? So, and then just the ding of the bell. So like
Yeah.
things like that, just for me, it's just so much more fun and engaging to do that. So like even just doing interviews, like if I had to go back to just doing one-on-one interviews that weren't in person, face to face, like video
Right.
is fine for this, but if it's not face to face, like I don't know. I would get bored
It's
at this
different
point.
for sure.
It's like
Yeah.
rewired my brain. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's using my DJ brain, right? Which is like be
Yeah.
able to take 2 songs and and blend them together and figure out like what's the next song, where am I going next, and how am I gonna take the audience on a ride with me and things like that.
Right.
So and it helps with storytelling too, especially with like game streaming. Like everybody wants to hear a story. So like
Yeah.
either I'm telling a story, I'm creating a story in the game, which I haven't gotten very good at yet. I'm still working that out. So it's just
Yeah.
working different muscles that I didn't in some cases didn't even know I had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. As far as like the gaming stuff is concerned, I find myself trying to watch playthroughs. Like when somebody's doing the first, like their first run through of a game, I
Mm,
find that really interesting because you're going through that storyline with them. But
yeah.
at the same time, I also like it when it's a game that they've played like a dozen times. So they sort of know where to go and what to do already. And there's not like you don't have to just sit there for the the thinking aspect of it, like, oh, this thing is giving me a prompt, maybe I should go over there. No, I think I'm going to go over here instead. Instead of that, you've got like a very straightforward thing. Um, but going back to live streaming and technology and stuff like that. So yeah, we've had an uptick in live streaming for sure. And also, like you were saying, the technology is a lot different than it used to be.
Hmm.
And it feels so much more accessible, like to the everyday person. Like, especially, we can just do this on our phones. Like, it's insane. Like, the thing in our pocket
Yeah.
is not just a calculator anymore or something to call other people, right? So, uh, so I wonder about, people were already saying that the podcast market was flooded, right? Like there are just millions and millions of podcasts, and it's hard to sort through all that and find, either things that you like or smaller shows or something like that. Is it already there with Twitch and live streaming, or are we about to see that because people are bored at home and they have sort of things to do, and now the technology is a lot easier to get to use.
I mean, I think from a Twitch standpoint. Oh, I lost my face
Oh,
again.
look
I'm
at
like,
that.
it keeps wanting to pick up. Like
There
that's
you
so
go.
weird. There you go. They. I don't know. I haven't been able to crack the Twitch algorithm at all. Just like I
Right.
mean, I stream to it. I use Restream.io, which I got on an AppSumo deal, or else I probably wouldn't use it.
Right.
So I can stream to multiple platforms at the same time. And so I'm streaming to, I don't know. Let me see. I can open up all the different. I stream to like
Yeah.
7 different places when I stream video games. Uh,
Nice.
so I stream to my Facebook Super Joe Pardo page, my
Right.
Twitch Super Joe Pardo account, my D Live account, which never even been to dlive.com, but I said I signed up for it. It's like, hey, why not? You never know, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
YouTube Stream Now, so it streams right to YouTube. Periscope, so you can watch my video gaming on Periscope.
Yeah.
Mob Crush, which I
What,
equally
never
don't
heard of it.
know, never
No
heard of it.
idea.
I just signed up for it, and it's like, yeah, why not? Like, hey, if I can stream to all these places, why not, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Streamcraft, which
exactly.
I've never heard of either, but I'm there.
it,
Steam.
it's so funny. I was just setting up distribution for a new podcast that I have coming out next month.
Mm,
And I'm going through the dashboard on the broadcasting site that I use, and I'm just like, okay, iTunes, Spotify, everything, right? And then you get down like a couple of spots, and it's like the number one podcast streaming app in India. I'm like, I don't know if anybody in India is going to listen to this show, but you know what? I'm gonna stream to it anyway because you never know, right?
you never know. Yeah, you don't know. You could be huge in India and not even
Yeah,
realize.
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, like so I also do Steam, which I didn't. I mean, I think they just recently opened up streaming as a thing, and then I also
Yeah.
streamed my personal profile on Facebook. So yeah, so I also used to stream to a Facebook page called Games with Super Joe Pardo, which I retired the page because I was just like, yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna put it on my Super Joe Pardo Facebook page because it's part of what I do.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
part of who I am. So Screw it. If you don't
Yeah.
like it, then go find the other guy with the suit who's talking business. Because I'm talking business and video games, and video games are big business. So get
Yeah.
over it. Get over yourself.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I spent a lot of time trying to search for sort of my podcast voice, right? Like I was like, okay, I gotta have a consistent theme for each thing. And then I ended up having 5 different shows, right? And that's sort of how Nerdbone came along because
Mm.
I was like, all right, on this show I'm talking about something that really interests me. And on this other show I'm talking about something that really interests me. And on this fourth, fifth, sixth show, I'm talking about stuff that interests me. You know what? How about I just do one show where it's stuff that I nerd out about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
stuff that really I engage with. So I guess in that way, I'm helping to not flood the market because I no longer have 7 or 8 podcasts all at the same time.
It's hard to promote though, right? Like
Yeah,
so I mean, right now I run 3 shows. The Business Geeks podcast with Sam and Jen. They're 2 awesome. Samantha Riley out of Australia and Jennifer Crawford out of DC. And then I have my show, which is now it was the Dreamers podcast for 4 of the 6 years it's existed. 2 of those years it was called Business with Super Joe Pardo, and I changed it over to just the Super Joe Pardo show,
right,
where I still talk. It's like business meets life because that's really the like what I love talking about is business lessons and that kind of stuff. And then I also have the Indie Pod podcast where we interview, we have guest podcasters on and just talk about podcasting, different topics in podcasting. It's actually one of the more. I mean, actually, all 3 of them are fun. Though the Super Joe Pardo show, I haven't recorded too many episodes of lately because like I wanted to do a produced show where like I was filming first, right? Film
right.
like on location and stuff, and then edit that down and then turn that into the audio podcast. Well, the problem with that is it takes a lot more time than just like clicking start broadcast and I
Yeah,
start talking and go, right? That's
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
problem with it. So and then since we've been in quarantine, it's been even harder to make that happen because like I can't go to the park to do that. So that means I'm like doing it at my house, and it's just more difficult. So like I probably have been making more excuses for myself than I probably should. Though
right, right.
I'm working on getting my workflow. I mean, like what I've mostly been working on. If you want to make it like a wider screen so people can see, I've mostly been working on this garage turned studio. That's sharing.
Wrong one.
Wrong one. Just change the format to like to big, or just click on the little silhouette next to my head down here in the
Oh, there
bottom
it
left hand corner.
is. There
There
you
we go.
go.
Look at that screen, nice screen white. Making this
There
hard.
we go.
So like working on getting this to be and this is actually a little too far over, but there you go. So getting this to be a studio where I can work out of and be as loud as I want and do gaming and stuff at 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night and not have to worry about my daughter in the next room over trying to sleep and waking
Right.
her up. So putting up the drywall, getting the wires, the electrical all ran and doing all that stuff. And it's taken up way more time. I still got to do sound treatments. Nick
Yeah.
G, if anybody knows Nick G, he's going to come and paint the room for me. So it's all coming together. The sound treatments I want to get because it's very echoey in here at the moment. But
Yeah.
we got carpet in here, so it's all coming together. It's just taking a bit of time, so I haven't been able to do all the live streams. But now I'm at least happy enough with my background because as I can
Yeah.
clearly see you're
Yeah.
it matters, and not everybody gets it, but it's a
Yeah.
storytelling aspect, and I want people to see that, hey, look, I have these arcade games behind me. It's part of who I am. I got to get some Disney paraphernalia on the background
Yeah.
but I'm probably going to wait until the walls get painted and all. So all that stuff matters. It's just, it just takes time. So for me, like this is like huge. Like I've wanted this amount of space. Like this is a huge space in here. This is like 35 by 16 garage.
Yeah.
So it's huge, and I have all the space to like have the arcade games and have the space to do that. And like when I get a VR headset finally, I mean I've had 2 VR headsets, but like I I told you I was send it back to Joe.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
returned one of them because I was like, I'm not really happy with the. I had the what's it called? The Vive, whatever they're calling their new Vive, the Elite one. Um,
Okay.
and it was good, but it wasn't great. And I was like, for $100 more, I'd rather get the Valve Index. And it actually now they're like, you have to order it and wait up to 8 weeks to get it. I was like, well, I'm sure there's going to be a new one in the not too distant future. I'll wait for the Vive Index too at this point. But
Right.
it gives me that space to do it because like we had it in our theater room when I had the first Vive that came out. But then we had kids. We started to have kids, and there was toys everywhere in that
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like, there's not enough space in here. So then I got rid of it because I was like, whatever. But so yeah, so having that space and being able to be loud is it's awesome for me. Like I absolutely like this is incredible. Like this is like a dream come true. Just having
Yeah,
my space.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I got it. I hear you on the sound treatment thing cuz so our house was built in 1908, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I could tell by the ghost standing next to you.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's actually what this one because that's Mac Miller, and you're not too far off. Unfortunately, I
I
miss that
couldn't tell.
guy.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Now you said it's not
uh,
gonna. I can tell.
but yeah, yeah, yeah. So first of all, thank you for the props on the background.
You're
However,
welcome.
you can see this half was painted in the background. This half has not been painted.
I
so
can
so at
see
this
that, but
point,
you know what?
at
On the
this point, I'm
camera,
just
it
trying to
doesn't come
cover
up
it with
well.
things. Yeah.
It doesn't come up very well on camera because it's such a light color anyway. Now that you're pointing it
True.
out, I can see it, but like up
Yeah,
until that,
yeah.
I couldn't really tell.
But yeah, so with our super old house, there's no insulation whatsoever between floors. So every once in a while, I'll be down here doing a podcast or live stream or something, and I'll get a text from my wife on the third floor,
Oh
and she's like,
wow.
"Hey, we're trying to sleep down." Also, I'm a very loud. I'm like naturally a loud talker, so I've had to adjust a little bit. But like, and like the most hilarious times are so the couch in the living room is directly above me. So she'll be sitting on the couch in the living room, and I'll like say something funny on the podcast, and then I'll get a text where it's like, "Haha, that was funny. You should tell them this story." Hilarious. But
I used
yeah,
to get that when
so
I was upstairs in my upstairs office. Like, hey, you're
yeah,
being too loud, like playing games or recording or something. And now
yeah,
I don't get it unless I turn my music on loud, like loud. Because
right,
we actually have two garages, so there's a garage between me and the rest of the house. So like I
okay,
had to turn the music on pretty loud and they don't even really hear it; they just hear the thud, like
right,
so.
because you got to get that bass going.
Yeah, right. Like that's yeah, exactly. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, I do have a bass out here. I put
So
it in the
yeah,
corner.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess ultimately it's probably the same. It's probably going to end up as the same deal as far as live streaming is going. It's probably going to be the same deal as podcasting as far as yeah, there's gonna be a ton, and there already is a ton, but it's really gonna be the people who put the work in and have that quality content, sort of like a cream rising to the top sort of deal.
Yeah, I mean quality content, but also quality marketing, right? And putting it out
Yeah,
in front of people and consistently putting it out, right? And consistently being on Facebook and Twitch. So like for me, like I forgot what the original question was. So for me,
it's all good.
the whole Twitch algorithm thing, like I mean, I get maybe one viewer in an hour if I'm lucky,
Right.
and so. I don't I think I have like 20 followers or something on there, 25 followers on there. So it's not crazy. And I'm not doing it super hardcore or anything like that. I'm just doing it because like, hey, I have an hour to kill between now and when I need to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And the wife's watching some TV show that I don't really watch TV, so I don't really
Right.
care.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kill and play a game. So yeah, so for me, like I don't know. I'm not trying to be like the next big Twitch streamer. If I was,
Yeah.
I would probably have to do it like 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and
Oh,
my wrists would kill me.
forever.
They would like literally
Yeah.
murder me in the middle of the night because like my wrists are bad enough as it is from years and
Right.
years and years and years of gaming. So the computer abuse.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I got you. Well, let's switch gears for just a second. A little bit. Switch it a little bit. So I have had so many opportunities to be a part of Indie PodCon, and for some reason, I just can't seem to get it together. And then this year, I was super excited. I was really excited.
you
And then
might still want to be
again,
excited though. You might still
I
want to be
am still
excited though.
excited.
I
Yeah,
we
no,
haven't canceled. We haven't canceled.
right. So give the people sort of a rundown of what it is and where it came from and where it's going.
Yeah, so it's a podcast conference that started out as Mid Atlantic Podcast Conference back in the December of 2014, and I love bringing people together. It's one it's one of the things I absolutely love. I love hosting events and creating experiences for people. So in December I had just gotten back from an event that Jared Easley from Podcast Movement and Lou Mangello of WDW Radio down in Florida, they had put on an event. And I grew up going to events. My family's business, like we had this big event each year, vendor night, where people come. They pass through all the vendors, and then they'd go to like this big open buffet, and it was totally free, open bar, like all the old truck heads would, get together at the bar, and it was great. It was a great time.
Right.
So like, and then I grew up and was like, oh, well, I'm gonna like put on LAN parties because we're playing video games in the early 2000s, and that's what we do.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I put on LAN parties, and I got involved with like this really big LAN party, like 256 people, and then we were 512 people down in Millville, New Jersey, and it was also I love LAN parties, and I also with the DJ, like you can see my turntables back here.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, right. And you can't tell because it's blurred out, but that's a Mavic Air 2 drone for all you drone heads out there. I just got it came in the mail like 2 days ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really sweet. I'm very
Jealous.
very happy with it. Oh, I'm jealous of me, like because they redid the. I hated the drone remote. I hated it with a like trying to fit your phone and lock it in place and see it, and then. Like I hated that remote, and this one you just like boop, you pop up the top and like slide the phone right in, like you should have been able to do forever ago. And there's no antennas; it just works, and I flew it really far away, and it just worked. It tracked the whole time. It was awesome.
Nice.
Anyway, so I got into doing raves and hosting parties and stuff back in like the mid to early 2000. There's like a spider going up my wall. That's one of the downsides of not having this garage taped or anything like that. There's so many cracks and things. Anyway, so I was doing these parties, and so for me it was like, okay, well we're just I'm gonna look up. I got back from Florida, and I was like, I'm gonna look up and see is there any Philadelphia podcast like community, and like there's the Philly Podcaster Society, but they do one event a year, and that's pretty much it. So I was like, okay, let's go a little bigger. Like, let's go Mid-Atlantic. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, it works. But by that point, I'd already been podcasting for like 8 months, and I had this global network of people because I was cranking out like 5 episodes a week where I'm interviewing people inspiring. Yeah, so like, and I did that for about 3 months, and then I went back down to 3 a week. So I was still cranking out all this crazy content over, ridiculous amount. And so it never really was Mid-Atlantic, because even when we had our first event we had a meetup in New York. That was all Mid-Atlantic people. But when we did our first event in September of 2015, we had people from Georgia flew and drove from Georgia. Dave Jackson came all the way from Ohio, as well as Steve Swanson from Ohio. Plus, we had Joey Kissimmee from Appendipity. He came up. He flew up from Florida. And so it was like even the first year it wasn't Mid Atlantic. So
Yeah.
then in the second year we had Mark Asquith come for all the way from the UK. We had Rob Greenlee from Seattle. Like we had Annette Bone from California. We had a South Dakotan come. So
Nice.
like we had Joel Bogus come from Texas. Like it wasn't like it was not Mid Atlantic. The only thing that was Mid Atlantic about was the fact of where it was held. That was it, and that was what I kept
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
tell people. But it goes back to what I was saying before about how if you don't have the money to market it, then people don't know, and if they don't know, then they're just going to assume. And basically, it stayed Mid Atlantic or MapCon
Yeah.
for 5 years. We did 5 events in September. This past one was in September. We brought it down to Atlantic City. Normally we've held it at this hotel right here in Swedesboro, New Jersey, right off 295, right outside of Philadelphia. So it was like 20 minutes from the airport. It's great. We went down to Atlantic City, had a really good time. It was kind of difficult because it was an extra hour travel for everybody that didn't come from New York or above.
Right. Yeah.
So Connecticut, we had Connecticut people come, Maine people, like all these people came, but they didn't have a longer trip. I did because like the normal hotel's 8 miles from my house. So
Yeah.
everybody traveled an hour to get down there, which people were like, it's not terrible, not great, whatever. But yeah, overall it was a really good experience. And about 2 weeks prior, I was talking to my boy Eric Hunley, and he was like, "Joe, you need to do independent. You need to hammer home that MapCon is an independent podcaster's haven." And I was like, "Okay, so like," and this is probably like a month or before the event, so. I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about it. And like 2 weeks before the event, I'm like, Eric, like, what if we change the name of MapCon? Like, everybody loves MapCon. Like, everybody, people go to other events and they're like looking for their MapCon family. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's really an honor that so many people are into it like that. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, should I change the name? So I reached out to a few people, and they were like, I don't know about that. Maybe I love MapCon. It's and all that. So ultimately, with 2 weeks left to go, I made the decision. I was like, nope, we're changing the name. We're going to be Independent Podcast Conference. I'm going to shorten it to Icon for short. So now I have icons. Like you, Ben, or this way,
Thanks,
like
man.
you, Ben, right? So, so it's a branding thing. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a talk at MapCon 5, and I basically told everybody like, hey, here's like the history of MapCon, what I learned at each event, and this is how it's gone, and here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change the name. And a lot of people were like, I don't know about that. Like,
what do you mean you're gonna change the name, bud?
I don't know about this, Joe. Like, how is this going to work out for you? I love MapCon.
Right.
I don't know if I love this new thing. And here's what happened. So I changed the Twitter handle. I changed everything overnight. So I announced it on Friday night at the end of the first day. Changed everything over. Funny story about that, side story about that. I changed the Twitter handle first thing in the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I could not sleep. I woke up. I tried to go to sleep. I went to sleep at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at like 4. It was like 4:30. So I'm sitting in my room and I'm like, all right, I'm going to change everything over to Icon so we can start like branding push this thing. And Twitter locks out the account. Like I had already got the Icon Indie PodCon is the at Indie PodCon is the Twitter handle. Well, I'd gotten it and I was making the swap. Well, the problem was it asked me for my birthday, and I think I tried to be cute and put down the birthday of Indie PodCon, which was like that day, and they were like, boom, nope, cancel on. Like, what the heck? And a lot of 4-letter words. So, I had to send a picture of my license and explain that, like, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it like that. And then, fortunately, they fixed it within like 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if it was like an automated thing or whatever, but they fixed it, and I was able to get back in. I'm like, great, because otherwise, like, I was really upset that my account was all locked
Yeah.
up there.
So I was so excited for this thing, and now you've taken it from me. But it's
Yeah,
kind of my
right.
fault, but not really. It's yours. Yeah.
Sounds like a certain person in office right now.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know what the mayor,
The president
there's so many at this
getting
point.
so upset about Twitter, like saying, "Hey, that might not be real." Fact
I
check
love
that,
it.
please.
He
Yeah.
gets slightly misconvenienced, very very slightly. It's like executive order. You offended me. This is awful. Yeah, no, brutal.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
oh god. Oh god, let us never become that tyrannical of our own brands.
No, of our own. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
man. Well, I'm not even trying to be political about it. I'm just saying, like
yeah, yeah,
it seems like a real babyish move to me,
yeah.
like to be
And it's
upset about.
that's the thing.
It's
It's
a
not
private
even
company, so it's not.
yeah,
It's like saying like you go into your school, right, as a high school, and
right,
you're like, I'm protesting. I'm not wearing my name badge. Throw it on the
right.
ground. And then they're like, well, you don't have the right to do that. Like, and you're like, I got free speech. You darn it. And you're like, yeah, no, you don't. You're in school, so shut up. Pick up the badge. Get back in class.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
I
like,
knew a couple of those kids in high school, and
yeah, oh yeah,
some of
of
them figured it
course.
out, and there were some others that just dropped out. You know, so you know
Yeah,
we'll see
that
how.
sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a totally good
Yeah,
idea.
and
You know what? They got them. They got them. They showed them. They showed the school by dropping out. Good job.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's what they keep telling their kids these days. You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So anyway, yeah. So
yeah.
I switched everything over. And here's what happened: a name change. All I did was a name, like one word. We went
Yeah.
from Mid Atlantic Podcast Conference to Independent Podcast Conference. And
Yeah.
you know what happened? What our Facebook group alone, went from we had about 400, I think it was like 400 or 450 people in it. And it would only pretty much be a ramp up to the conference itself. And
Right.
then it would peter, like after the conference, about a month after, it would peter off and it would pretty much stay stagnant until
Right.
like January, when it'd be like, hey, we're gonna do speaker call for speakers. And I did the Indie Pod or the MapCon podcast and all that, but like, and I had some other hosts that ran it for me over the course, because I had two kids in 2 years, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there was a couple years there
Busy
where, like,
guy.
things
Yeah.
things were a little busy, hectic around here. So I ran, it went from that to now. Was it May? What's today? May 28th. So we're what, 5 months plus 3 months? Not even 3 months, because it was, well, I guess it was, no, because it was like the end of September. We held it at the end, like,
Yeah.
or no, was it the beginning? I don't even remember when MapCon was. I think it was September. Well, because we moved it this year. We moved it back to the end of September.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the beginning. It was like the 6th and 7th.
Yeah.
So okay. So 3 plus 5. How do you do that in the new math? 3 plus 5. How many math problems? Do I have to do to
Well,
figure
first
that
I
out?
have to divide the 5 by 10 for some reason. And then I think I have to
Okay.
spin around 3 times and spit on my child's face. And then she'll be able to figure it out, apparently.
That
Dre-
somebody made $1
yeah.
million on that idea.
It wasn't us.
Yeah, right. So like in 8 months' time, we went from like 400-ish people in the group and pretty much being stagnant to now we're almost at 1,450 people. So we've
Yeah.
raised the bar by like 1,000 people in
Yeah.
just 8 months' time, and like every day it goes up by like 3 to 5 people.
And
It's
to your
crazy.
point, I actually it's defunct now. It went absolutely nowhere. But at one point, I was getting super into beard growth and stuff like that, and my mustache. I was looking real good, right? And I thought about so it's hilarious because I did exactly the same thing you did. I'm like, okay, where are the competitions around Philadelphia? There's one official one that happens once a year.
A beard competition?
Yep, a beard and mustache
Oh,
competition.
wow.
The
Okay.
Philadelphia
Didn't know
Beard
that.
and Mustache Society, I think.
Wow.
Group. I don't know, but anyway, they have one competition every year, And there are like some little ones around the city that are like, hey, this bar is having one because whatever, it's October or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to start my own. That would be amazing. Like, just have one that's outside the city, and maybe it can count towards something. I don't know. We'll make the prize like a case of beer, and we'll see what happens. You know. But when it came to naming the thing, I was working on the Facebook page for it, and I decided to name it the International Beard and Mustache Association because that doesn't exist yet. There is an
It didn't exist
international
yet.
beard and
Okay.
mustache something, you know. And even though I haven't posted anything on it in like 3 years, I still get requests to join the Facebook group at least twice a month.
Wow.
So I sort of
That's
have to
awesome.
get rid of it or do something with it. I don't know yet. So yeah, it's so interesting how and I
Yeah, I mean,
guess
people, and that's just grassroots, right? Like people are just finding it. In
yeah,
my case, and in your case, like just the name, because it's all about finding things that you identify with, right? And in
right.
this case, it's like, okay, Mid Atlantic doesn't speak to me because I live in, Kentucky. I don't
Yeah.
live in the Mid Atlantic, but we had members from all over the world, so from Australia all the way to Japan, like
Yeah.
Japan, Australia, all the way around the world to Hawaii. So but people identify with the independent group, podcast conference, and
Yeah.
because of that, like we have just grown exponentially. Now, what has also really helped, because we were at like I think like 900 by March, so we had already like doubled by March.
Right.
And what really, really helped was I was like, okay, so we're in this COVID-19 thing. I just got back from a trip to Disney World and Podfest. I was like, I'm going to host a virtual conference, and it's going to be in like 10 days from then. So I think the first one was like the end of March. Um, I think like March 28th or 29th was the first one. And it ended up being a 2-day event, like 8 hours, actually like 9 hours each day,
Oh
that
yeah.
I hosted live, and each speaker got 20 minutes, and we raised a bunch of money for the CDC. And it was just it was a
Big props to the
magical,
CDC, by the way.
well, yeah, right. Like, yeah. So it was awesome. Like, it was really magical. But the thing is like with all the promotion that was going out around it, like we were growing like 3 to 5 people an hour
Right.
for like a week straight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, for not every hour, but like several hours a day, it was
Every
hitting
90
there.
minutes or so. Yeah.
Yeah, you're hitting like 3 to 5 people joining. So
Yeah.
it like shot up really quick, and now it's still growing to this day, and I I'm just grateful to have people come into the fold and want to be a part of it, and I'm working. In fact, I was literally just talking to my wife right before I walked out here to jump into this room, about like how I'm going to create a 5-day a week content schedule and create content not for 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so like we're going to go from 1 day a week with the Indie Pod podcast to 5 days a week. So
Yeah.
it's it's growing rapidly, and it's kind of a shame that might be stunted by this virus, but to me this is a long game, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I just talked about this with Tim and Kyle from the Podrect show just 2 nights ago about how, like, there's definitely been years where like I was like, is this, I'm not really making like money at this, so like, is it really worth my time investing in it? And
Right.
the fact of the matter is like, here we are, and I actually want to pour more time into it than I have even leading up to now. And we don't even necessarily know. We're not promised that we're going to have a live event in September.
Right.
Um, but we're doing these virtual. I've done after on Saturdays. It will be my 5th virtual conference since the end of March that I've
Right.
hosted. So like, and they're not little. They're like 6 to 8 hours a piece that I'm there
Yeah.
in the room,
Yeah.
like, hosting and doing all that stuff. So it's not a little feat by any stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah. And
crazy.
Two things that I think of, you know, first of all, the switch to the name thing, uh, on a couple of different levels, it's really cool because that also adds to, what we were just saying to sum up, basically, it also adds to the marketing for the brand itself because now you've got something that's a little more memorable. And I went through the same thing with Nerdbone where it sounds weird. It's a weird sounding thing. It's so close to being the nerd boner, which is not really what I'm going for.
No, I know you're going for
But
like the nerd bone, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like your
to
funny
the
bone,
nerd bone,
except
yeah.
it's a yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I know that it's attention grabbing for that reason, and it's also like because I tried to be, I guess kitschy is the word that I'm looking for. So my last couple of podcasts, where it was just my thing, like the last one was called "The Kids Are All Right," uh, and I tried to make it more of like a news thing, almost like I don't know, what's that thing? Some Good News with John Krasinski. I tried to do that. But I don't know. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a little side project. Some actors doing it,
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So there's that, and then also, gosh, I have been trying to switch to a 5 day a week schedule for what feels like forever, and this is sort of the balance that we've been dancing around in our conversation, which is, content. What is the content you're putting out? Does it speak to people? How often are you doing it? How consistent are you doing it? That sort of thing, And I think that's gonna that model really works across just everything you're trying to do. From, we were talking about live streaming on Twitch, even if it's just playing a video game or something like that. Like if you want to draw in viewers, all right, well, what's your handle name? And what's your static image and what's in the background of the shot of you while you're playing the game, like that. Yeah.
So I don't understand. Like I was going to get a green screen, but then I actually did buy one. I went to Micro Center, bought one, like a one that you hang from the ceiling. And I was like, oh, I could use this and I could like cut myself out and all that and like put myself in the game or whatever. And then I started thinking, I'm like, but that's what like a lot of people do. And I don't actually think that it looks that great, honestly. Right. Like it doesn't look bad. It looks better than green screens of, decade, but it just doesn't feel as cool. I don't know. Like to me, like this background is a lot cooler, and it's only just getting started. Like and your background's a lot cooler than just me being in the green screen, like sitting on.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe,
no,
I guess.
It absolutely is, right? So to me, it tells more of the story of you, and it's I preach to everybody like art can be anything that you make it, right? So like anything you have, like even your wallet, like this is my wallet. It's from a company called Basic. So like you pull the tab and like boom, everything comes out.
Oh, I see.
Right?
That's neat.
Yeah. So it's neat, but it's different than like the leather full wallet thing that everybody else has. And And this was $10, so like I'm pretty cheap.
Yeah,
as it is. So,
right.
I think they sell them for 20. I think they're $20 now. They've doubled their price, which good on them. They totally should because they make a great product. It's lasted me way past its. I probably should just buy a new one at some point, but it still works. So
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna just roll with it.
Yeah. And so last point, and then we'll get out of here, or else we're gonna end up sitting here for like hours on end, just talking about stuff.
I'll go. I'll keep going. I don't have to. I don't have to stop.
But yeah, so the background thing, it's like, first of all, it's a representation of me, which is sort of the overarching thing of the brand. It's stuff that I'm interested in, and like I got Power Rangers over there, I got Star Wars down there, I got a movie poster over here, Batman, and then also this is one of my favorite albums, and this thing my friend made, and this thing my dad made, so it's very personal. But at the same time, and especially thinking about, because I want to do more stuff on Twitch, I'm thinking about this is not only a representation of me, but about pretty much everybody who's watching too, who's they're sitting in their living rooms or just their personal space, and they've got what's important to them around them, unless they're not as cluttery as I am, and this would drive them insane, which is always a possibility. But yeah, I feel like, doing the green screen thing is a neat piece of technology, but I think it's going to take away a little bit from your engagement with other people.
I mean, people try to make up with it by having, like, every time somebody donates, they have like the dancing GIF or something that jumps on the screen. So they're trying to make up for it in different ways. And I'm not trying to take away from, like, because a lot of them are working out of like they live in a 2-bedroom apartment where one of them, one bedroom is their streaming thing, or they're in a studio apartment where, like, they live there, so they want to do that. And I'm not gonna knock on that, because hell, a lot of them got way bigger followings than I have. That's for darn sure. They're making way more money with those followings than I am. So I'm not gonna knock it, but I will say, like, me personally, I like seeing people's setups and how, like, where they're working and all that. So for me, it just doesn't do it. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
I got you.
I like that. So, like, I had one and I ended up returning it because Send It Back Joe isn't afraid to just send it back. If it doesn't fit what I like and how I'm going to interact with it. So yeah, I would, I think, like I said, it's really important for you to think of everything as art, and, like, utilizing the things around you, and to turn it, whether it's audio, like, we're in a cafe, like, I want background noise because to tell people, like, to tell that story and put them there in that story with you. Or I want you to be like, hey, come hang out in my studio because it's freaking, I got video games, we're hanging out, and there's a TV and my DJ equipment's over there, and we're having fun. So, to me, like, that's the stuff, man. That's
the juice, man.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Thanks for to be completely honest, I would not blame anyone for only listening to this episode all the way through unless you are super into podcasting. Because that's just something that we nerd out about. That's something that's our thing. Check out Super Joe Pardo on Twitter and on Instagram as well, right?
Instagram, yeah. It's mostly pictures of my kids on Instagram. Mostly.
Well,
but I try to do inspirational stuff too, like my like when I go running. Like, I haven't been running lately, but Instagram. It's the same everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. Right. YouTube, my website, superjoepardo.com or indiepodcon.com. It's all there, man.
Heck yeah, man.
The branding
it's all merging together.
Yes.
And definitely check out his live streams on Facebook and Twitch. Go to Twitch.
Yeah, I could use some Twitch followers. I could use more YouTube followers too, like subscribers. So if you like business, if you like, if you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, like that's the people that I'm hanging out with. But if you also like video games, I'm there too. There's a whole playlist of me playing video games with my boy Dre and some other good friends of mine. So
just a little bit of everything, man.
Yeah, man. Like, it's complex. I don't need multiple channels. Like, I tried to do it. I don't really want to do it anymore. Like, I don't care. Like, if you like what I do, then you're gonna like what I do. If you don't, then it's okay. There's plenty of other business coaches and strategists out there that got their suit and tie on, and that's what they're worried about. And their Rolexes and I mean, I got a Rolex. But you don't see me wearing it. Look, hey, Apple Watch.
Yeah, exactly. Bang. Yeah. If I'm gonna spend a couple $100 on a watch, I ain't getting something just because it's made out of gold. It needs to function. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that too, but watching Mr. Wonderful on YouTube, he talked about 5 watches that weren't that expensive, and they weren't. I mean, they were like $2,000-$3,000. I mean, compared to like $25,000 or $100,000 watches.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of them that I think is only like maybe like $1,000. And he wears it all the time. He loves it. And again, $1,000 it's all relative, but $1,000 for a watch that a dude that's a multi millionaire, probably close to billionaire, wears. Like, come on now.
Yeah. There's probably some worth to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we can nerd out about watches on another episode, on another hour episode.
Find the other nerd bone for watches. That's the
Yeah,
bone right
exactly.
here, right?
That'll be the live that we do, where we just scroll through the internet, just salivating at all the watches we could possibly buy.
I don't
But,
get as geeky about watches, but so, I mean, some of them look cool, but I don't know. I'm not as not as Mr. Wonderful is, that's for sure.
yeah, I'm not as looking at myself now. I'm not as much into style as I thought I was. This shirt says "Will Podcast for Beer." So
Hey, it's better than my shirt. My shirt says nothing right now.
Wow,
That's 90.
branding.
Like 60% of my closet is this gray V-neck. So
hey, you
it's
stick with
what I
what's
wear.
comfy, right?
Hey, there's a reason Steve Jobs wore the clothes that he wore. It was because he didn't want to have to think about it, and that's
Exactly.
kind of the same path that I take about with it. So unless the shirt is mine or somebody I care about, like their brand or something to that effect,
Right.
Old Navy V-neck shirts, man. This is what I'm rocking.
Nice. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you
for
guys
having
for
me.
listening and watching and all that jazz. You can find all the Nerdbone stuff at Nerdbone on the tweets and the Instagrams. Don't have too much fun without me, and be safe out there. Peace.